It's time for Northwestern Outdoors Radio, the award-winning show that covers fishing, hunting, and all sorts of outdoor recreation here in the Great Northwest. Northwestern Outdoors is brought to you every week by Max Lure Company, a legacy of innovation since 1969. By Loophole Optics, America's optical authority. By Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
By Wallowa County.
Nature is on display in Northeast Oregon. And by The Real News, your fishing resource. Also by Shiloh Inns and Suites, providing you with affordable excellence. And by Mardon Resort, the place for fishing, hunting, and more in Eastern Washington. And now, it's time to head outside with your host, John Cruz.
It's Labor Day weekend, and I'm guessing more than a few of you tuning in today are getting in that last camping trip of the year. Well, that's what we did too last weekend, and I think it was one of the best family camping trips I've ever experienced. We not only camped and enjoyed the old fire at night, but also got to fish, go crabbing, hike, enjoy the salt water, explore an old fort and historic lighthouse, and even go on a boat ride or two. Where do we do all of this under sunny August skies? Whidbey Island, Washington. That's where. It's located in Puget Sound, north of Seattle, and we'll be telling you all about it on this week's show. We're going to start off our trip by taking you to Fort Casey. It was built at the end of the 19th century next to the Admiralty Head Lighthouse. Today, this old coastal artillery installation has been turned into a fantastic state park where you can explore the old fortifications while gazing out onto Puget Sound. You can also cast for salmon, go crabbing, and enjoy a great camping experience watching a nearby Washington State Ferry come and go throughout the day while your kids play on the beach. We'll foray from Fort Casey to Deception Pass and hop on board a boat to check out the famous bridge here and take in some local history and wildlife watching along the way. Captain Brent Gither with Deception Pass Tours is our guide, and he's going to tell you all about this very affordable excursion. With all of this water around, you might want to do some fishing. There are a lot more places to cast a line from besides the beach at Fort Casey, and Kevin John, the manager at Holiday Sports in nearby Burlington, will be telling you all about them. In addition to this, we've got fishing reports from our other Northwestern states, outdoor news from Montana, Idaho, and Oregon, another extended Max Minute with Lance Mers, and a unique land navigation race coming up soon west of Yakima at Cleman Mountain that Rebecca Jensen's going to come on board to tell you about. But first, David Sparks got good news for Idaho deer hunters this season on this week's edition of Sportsman Spotlight, brought to you every week by Shiloh Inn and Suites, the hotel chain that lives up to its motto of affordable excellence.
Hey hunters, Fish and Game has good news for you if you like going hunting for deer. There are going to be lots of them this fall. David Sparks, Sportsman Spotlight. I received a press release from Idaho Fish and Game's Steve Liebenthal. The headline was "Mild Winters Lead to Great Opportunity for Deer Hunters." Steve was referring to Idaho, but assured me that the conditions applied to all deer hunting throughout the entire Northwest.
5 of the last 6 winters have been very mild, generally speaking, and compared to what we expect here in Idaho, and that has resulted in a high survival rate among deer, both whitetail and mule deer. And because of that sequence of year after year of survival, there's a pretty good population of deer throughout the state at this point.
Biologists say that mild winters and good summer conditions allow bucks to put additional energy into their antler growth. So 2014 will not only provide great opportunities to take a deer, but you also have plenty of potential to bag a big trophy. If you do want to hunt Idaho, in the Panhandle region, hunters will find high numbers of whitetail, including abundant does, but are reminded to carefully identify before pulling the trigger, as mule deer hunting is bucks only in that region. I was also told that some of the highest survival rates are in the Central Mountain area and in the Mountain Valley area. All that said, tune those bows, sight in those rifles, and good luck. This is David Sparks for Sportsman Spotlight.
Confused by so many national brand hotel reward programs? Blackout dates, expiration dates, different points for different hotel rewards, and gimmicks? At Shiloh Inn Suites Hotels, it's simple. No blackout dates for any rewards stay. If we have a room available, it's yours. Hi, I'm Mark Hemstreet, owner of Shiloh Inns. As a rewards member, you'll receive free room upgrades, a dedicated personal agent to help book your stay, points that don't expire, points that can be used for free nights at any one of our beautiful hotels, or donations to your local school or free airline tickets, and much more. And as a special bonus, you'll earn 100 free bonus points just for signing up. From your very first stay, you receive free Wi-Fi, free breakfast at most locations. The kids stay free. We don't charge ridiculous resort or parking fees, and we're dog-friendly. Shiloh Inns, affordable excellence. American-owned and proud of it.
Today's line of portable camp stoves from Camp Chef have come a long way from your father's propane stove, featuring matchless ignition, more cooking power, and in some cases a built-in grill or extra burner. Look for the complete line of Mountain Series stoves at your local sporting goods store or online at campchef.com. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
It's a great time to go fishing, and whether you're heading to the lake for trout, to the saltwater for salmon, or fishing the Columbia for Chinook or steelhead, The Real News has got you covered. The columnists at The Real News are just like you, die-hard anglers. Better still, they share their expertise to help you have a great time on the water. The Real News has been going strong for 26 years and prides itself on being Washington's only sport fishing newspaper. Look for your copy at local sporting goods retailers or subscribe online at therealnews.com. You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We're broadcasting from Whidbey Island. It's in the northern portion of Puget Sound in Washington State. And I'll tell you what, I think I have found one of the best places to come and camp and visit, whether you're with a family or as a couple or by yourself. It's called Fort Casey. There's a whole lot of history here. There's a whole lot of outdoor recreation here. With us here to tell us more about it is Brett Bain with Washington State Parks. Brett, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So, Brett, we're sitting here outside of the main office, and we're looking across the parade grounds towards this fort that overlooks Admiralty Inlet, part of Puget Sound. When was this fort built, and why was it built?
The fort was built in the late 1890s. These were the first defense posts of the West Coast. So it was built here to protect the entrance of Puget Sound, Seattle, and the Bremerton shipyard.
Who were we protecting against at the time? Was it the Japanese fleet, the Russian fleet, or we just didn't know? We just knew we needed to protect the shipyards?
Yeah, really anybody with a fleet. So anybody that had sailing capability of coming over and being in the area. We were still dealing with England and France were in the area pretty heavily at the time. So anybody that had a ship that was capable of getting over here.
This is one of three forts that is built in this area. There's Fort Casey, there's Fort Worden, there's Fort Flagler. I've even heard of them referred to as the forts that make up the Triangle of Death, because no ship would ever make it through Admiralty Inlet with the forts that were here and the guns that were here. And speaking of the guns, there's these two huge 10-inch cannon that are at the fort here. Tell me more about these.
Well, yeah, so we refer to it as the Triangle of Defense.
So politically correct.
Between the three forts, we could saturate every square inch of water out here with a shell. They did the same thing in the Columbia River mouth and in San Francisco Harbor as well. We're lucky enough here to have the two 10-inch guns on disappearing carriages. These guns came over here in the late 60s. We were fortunate enough to get them from the Philippine Islands, Fort Wint, and thus you will find shrapnel marks in these guns because they did see action during the World Wars.
Oh, amazing stuff. And on a side note about that little joke about political correctness, it's funny over the years, because this was originally referred to, I believe, as the Triangle of Death, then as the Triangle of Fire, and now as the Triangle of Defense. God knows what we'll be calling it another 20 to 30 years, but that's okay. Nevertheless, there's a lot of history to be seen here, and it's not just military history. There's a lighthouse here as well. Beautiful lighthouse. Tell me about it.
The Admiralty Head Lighthouse was actually here first. The first lighthouse was a wooden structure on the point just in front of the fort. And when the Army came in and decided to build a fort here, they had to move the lighthouse and agreed to build another one for them. So the second lighthouse was built in place where it is now.
This lighthouse today, is it still operated at all? I mean, are the lights still going at night?
No, the lighthouse is now an interpretive center and a gift shop that is operated through a cooperative agreement that we have with WSU Extension. They keep it open with volunteers, and folks can go in. It's open daily from 11 to 5 right now. The lighthouse here wasn't here as a hazard lighthouse. This was a navigational lighthouse. The ships would actually sail for the light towards it and then tack in to make their way into the sound.
Fascinating stuff. When it comes to the military history part of this as well, I know during the summer months that you actually have some tours and some living history that occurs here too, don't you?
Right. We have tours that happen on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, 2:30 all 3 days, and 1 o'clock is added on Saturdays and Sundays. Our Fort Casey Volunteer Battalion are a group of retired military gentlemen, for the most part, who have real-world experience in this stuff, and they do the tours, and you're able to learn not only about the history of the fort, but they open up some of the rooms that are locked up, and you get to see some equipment that we've had restored down below that you don't get to see otherwise.
You know, folks, it's just so fun to go up here on these parapets where the old gun emplacements were, and you're looking out over the sound, you're watching the shipping go back and forth, and you can really imagine yourself as one of those old coastal artillery soldiers over 100 years ago, waiting for the enemy to come by, or perhaps waiting to go ahead and engage in some target practice, because they would go ahead and shoot out there in the inlet at these targets that were floating out there and see if they could basically sink the ship, for lack of a better word. But today, it's a state park. And when did that happen?
Washington State Parks bought this from the Army in 1956.
And now that it's a state park, there's a whole lot of other things going on here, too. One of those things is camping. You've got a wonderful campsite that's part of this park, and I love the fact that it's right next to the ferry terminal that runs between Keystone and Port Townsend.
Right, that's a popular thing that our campers enjoy, being able to just walk onto the ferry, go over to Port Townsend and grab some dinner and shop around town there. And it also sits right next to our boat launch in the ferry harbor there, and it's one of the few west side boat launches here on Whidbey.
And folks, I got to tell you, this happy camper did just that today. Went on the ferry with my family. Nice 30-minute crossing. Port Townsend, if you haven't been there before, great place to knock around. Lots of shops, lots of things to see. There's also a marine science center there that's really worth seeing, that's part of Fort Worden. But let's get back to Fort Casey and some of the things you can do outdoors here. Now, one of the things you can do is basically do some hiking and hike around where all these old fortifications are. There's trails that take you from the campground up to the forts and over to the lighthouse and some other places as well. Something else you can do is fishing, and people have been catching coho salmon right off the beach, haven't they?
Yeah, there's been a few here. We're still waiting for the bulk of the run, and it should get much better. The
people that are fishing off the beach, they're basically, it looks like most of them are fishing the incoming or outgoing tide, especially high tide. And what are they throwing? Buzz bombs primarily?
Yeah, folks will use buzz bombs, the rotators, just about any kind of a lure type setup will work. But a lot of guys like to float herring as well, which is a little bit more involved, but most folks are casting lures.
And how long will this fishing hold up for these silvers this year?
Well, it'll run into October, I hope.
Now, this is not a pink year, but I understand this is also a great beach to fish from when the pinks are running through.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Any of the salmon runs have to run right by here, so folks really have an opportunity to fish right off the beach and catch fish. Last year's pink run was very fun.
In addition to fishing and history and hiking, there's also wildlife watching to be done. Now, the main mammal I've seen here so far at the park has been the eastern cottontail, but I'm guessing there's some other ones too.
Oh, yeah, we've got a lot of black-tailed deer running around, as well as your, raccoons and things like that. No large mammals on the island, but it's also a very popular area for birding. Crockett Lake offers a great chance to see all kinds of birds, and the Audubon Society is down there often, and we've got a bird viewing platform that folks can take advantage of. We've also got something for folks that would like to go underwater with the underwater dive park at the Keystone Jetty. Folks go under and see all kinds of nice sea life on the jetty.
all sorts of things to do here, and it's an absolutely gorgeous place to do it. Now, if you're going to camp, you're going to want to make reservations quite a ways in advance. It's not a big campground, but it's a campground that's ideally situated to go ahead and take in the views of Admiralty Inlet and that ferry coming and going. It's just a wonderful place to hang out for a few days. If you want to find out more about camping, about the military history here, the lighthouse here, the wildlife watching, the diving, and everything else, just go to the Washington State Parks website. That's parks.wa.gov. That's parks.wa.gov, and just go to Fort Casey. I think you're going to like what you see there, and when you come here, I know you're going to love it. Brett, thanks for telling us all about this on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thank you very much.
That's the sound you hear when a fish hits the new sonic bait fish from Max Lure Company. This metal lure can be cast, trolled, or jigged and will catch just about anything that swims in the sea, the river, or the lake. The sonic bait fish has a unique vibration and flutter that can be rigged in 7 different ways. With all sorts of eye-catching colors and weights available, you'll be reaching for the sonic bait fish as your go-to lure. It's the sonic bait fish. Only from Max Lure Company.
I'd like to tell you I just brought down that buck, but I didn't. I missed. And you know why I missed? Because of the scope I've got on my rifle. You see, my friends told me to get a Leupold rifle scope. Why? Well, because Leupold is America's optical authority. They make a huge variety of quality scopes for every need, and they make them right here in the Northwest. Unfortunately, I didn't listen. I used the cheap scope that came with this rifle when I bought it. And when it came time to pull the trigger, well, let's just say things were a little blurry. Now, I've got nothing to look forward to except a long, empty-handed walk back home. Next time I come out into the field, there's going to be a Leupold scope on my rifle. And next time, I'm not going to miss.
Leupold rifle scopes. Check out the whole line at leupold.com and look for them at a sporting goods store near you.
We're back with John Cruz on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
It's time for another Max Minute.
Fish on!
Brought to you every week by Max Lure Company. With us again is Lance Murs. Lance, you've been fishing for Chinook salmon, and I understand you had a pretty good day on the Columbia River, and you were using a brand new lure to get these fish in the boat. Tell me more about it.
John, we had a fantastic time. We were using the Max Lure Smile Blade herring rig. And the great thing about this is it has a 1.9-inch smile blade. The beads below the smile blade have a bobber stop knot. So what it means is that you can get different actions by simply sliding the knot to and from, or you can use a whole herring or a cut plug herring.
So you're talking about using herring here, and I know that herring is an effective bait for Chinook salmon on the Columbia River, but it's also a great bait to use whether you're using cut plug herring or anchovy off the Oregon coast or the Washington coast, and those fisheries are going off right now. So how do you go about fishing it?
Well, a lot of folks are using flashers. They're running a 2-foot leader off of that flasher, but our success, believe it or not, was a Max Lure Double D Dodger.
So in the river, you're using a Double D Dodger, and again, it looks like just a big double whammy, folks. You got the big Mylar smile blade, and then you got the 2 hooks that you normally associate with putting on herring or sardines, and it's as simple as that.
Yep, it has a 3 and a 4/0 hook on a 25-pound test line. Now, the cool thing about this is it's brand new, so it's not in the catalog at all. You got to go to the website.
All right, and we better give people that website. If it's not in dealerships yet, we better tell people what the website is.
Right, just go to www.maxlure.com.
That's maxlure.com. maxlure.com. Max Lure Company, a legacy of innovation since 1969, and the double whammy smile blade herring rig is just another example of that. Look for it again on the Max Lure website.
Looking for that extra something that will get more salmon or trout into your boat? Then check out the Double D Dodger from Max Lure. The Double D does double duty and helps you catch more fish. The Double D's flash attracts lunkers, and the Dodger's patented stop-start action works wonders to get those fish biting. The Double D does even more by acting as a side planer to get your bait away from the boat where the fish are more likely to be and more apt to strike. The Double D Dodger. It's the Dodger you've got to have from Max Lure.
It's a great time to go fishing, and whether you're heading to the lake for trout, to the saltwater for salmon, or fishing the Columbia for Chinook or steelhead, the Real News has got you covered. The columnists at the Real News are just like you, die-hard anglers. Better still, they share their expertise to help you have a great time on the water. The Real News has been going strong for 26 years and prides itself on being Washington's only sport fishing newspaper. Look for your copy at local sporting goods retailers or subscribe online at therealnews.com.
Looking for the ultimate cooking machine for your backyard or patio? Look no further than Camp Chef's new pellet grill and smoker. With user-friendly features like an auto ignition, digital readouts, and internal meat temperature sensors, it's easy to smoke the tastiest salmon, ribs, brisket, and turkey you'll ever eat. And an innovative system makes cleanup a snap. Everyone will want the food you're cooking on your Camp Chef pellet grill and smoker. The quality smoker that's second to none. Find out more at campchef.com. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We're broadcasting this week from Whidbey Island, Washington. We're in the northern portion of Puget Sound. Some absolutely gorgeous landscape out here, especially if you love woods and salt water too. And one of the places you have to see while you're on Whidbey Island is Deception Pass. It's a huge bridge that goes over this pass, and most people basically park on top of the bridge and they'll look down and ooh and ah. But if you really want to see it, you've got to go on a tour, and there's one here. It's Deception Pass Tours. With us here is the owner of this boat tour company, Captain Brent Gither. Brent, thanks for a great trip this afternoon.
Oh, you betcha. Yeah, I appreciate you coming out and checking us out.
So, Brent, let's tell our listeners a little bit more about your tours. Let's go ahead and run through the basics. Now, we just went on your hour-long tour, and what exactly does that entail?
Basically, it is our tour of Deception Pass with the history, wildlife, some of the stories of the characters that lived in the area.
And I loved the historical part. A lot of stuff I didn't know. It's really interesting, folks. But I also really liked the wildlife watching opportunities, too. Now, we got to see some seals close up. I know that it's very common to see harbor porpoises. We didn't see them today. Loved seeing the bald eagle that flew right over us. Got to see some kingfishers. Got to see these really interesting seabirds. What were those that we were seeing?
Those were pigeon guillemots, and one of the diving birds you see around here quite a bit. And last count, there was like 300 of them living in Deception Pass, up in the cracks and crevices of the cliffs is where they make their nests.
You know, they almost look like a football with little white patches on the wings. And I understand, I mean, obviously I was watching them fly through the air, but I understand they also use that body shape and those wings to actually, well, fly or swim underwater.
They are great underwater swimmers, and not the best of flyers by any means. They look like a cannonball when they hit the water. So,
pretty cool stuff to see, though. What's some of the other wildlife you've seen out here? You've been running these tours for years now.
All kinds. As far as birds, ospreys, eagles, peregrine falcons, western grebes, horned grebes, all types of the seabirds. And then mammals, sea lions, got the California sea lions, stellar, harbor seals that we saw today. We see whales in here. And we have seen whales through the pass.
Oh, wow. Are we talking minke whales, or are we talking actually orca whales?
Both. Seen the minkies, orcas, and gray whales come through the pass. One of the years we had a humpback hanging out on the west side of Whidbey Island for about a month and a half, too. So you never know what you're going to see.
Well, it's really cool. And folks, again, the scenery is spectacular. The other thing I like about this is this boat. This reminds me almost like some of the jet boats I've been on in places like the Rogue River or Hell's Canyon. Tell me a little bit more about this open-air boat here that we've been cruising around on.
Well, you're right. It is a jet boat, but the design of the boat, because it is a catamaran, allows us to get into some of the more choppier water, much smoother ride than if we had a flat-bottom riverboat.
Well, I understand that this boat, well, for lack of a better word, you had a vision, so to speak. Tell me more about this boat and how it came to be in your possession.
Well, let's see. I had a dream, had a vision, basically. Had drawn it out on a piece of paper, and I was working at a boatyard building boats at the time, and had set it aside and forgot about it for quite some time until my wife and I came up to Anacortes, saw this boat that we're sitting on right now in a parking lot up there at a whale watching company. And went over. Had just recently got my captain's license, so inquired, and he hired me, ran the boat for him and for a year, and then bought it from him. And then we started this about 8 years ago.
And how big is this boat? How many people does it seat?
The boat is 37 feet long, 14 feet wide, and we can take out 37 passengers at a time.
Now, folks, if you hear voices in the background, that's because there's really quick turnaround on these tours. They're offered almost every hour, and we've actually got some people loading up here. You know, how much do these tours cost? Because they strike me as very affordable if you're looking for something to do while exploring this area.
Yeah, very, very inexpensive and family-orientated. But the cost is $28.95 for children and seniors, and then for adults it's $34.95. And because it's a little bit shorter tour, hour long, kids keep their attention the whole trip.
Well, it's a very well done tour, and there's a whole lot packed in this hour. You're not going to be bored at all. There's a lot to take in between the wildlife and the history, and running full speed through certain areas, and of course, experiencing the beauty of the pass itself. I mean, this pass pushes through a whole bunch of water and a whole lot of current. How much current's flowing through here, and how much water's being pushed through here?
On a big current day, it'll reach about 9 knots.
And I understand there's a whole lot of water that's flushed through here too as the tides go in and out.
Yeah, and the amount of water pushing through on the big tide days is up 10 times greater than all the rivers flowing into Puget Sound combined.
That is absolutely amazing. One other thing we need to talk about, I understand you also offer whale watching tours for people who want to extend this trip out a little bit more. Tell our listeners about that.
We do. We offer the 2.5 to 3 hour whale watch trips, and they leave here at 10 in the morning, same place the hour trip leaves. And those are anywhere in the San Juan Islands. Basically, they start right at the dock. I mean, since we have seen whales here, so you never know where they're going to pop up.
Now, I know that, a lot of the whale watch boats kind of cooperate together. You can never guarantee you're going to see whales, but are you part of that group too that's talking to each other so that you have a really good chance of seeing the whales when you go out every day?
Absolutely, yeah. We have a 100% success rate this summer for whale watching, and we are part of the network of other boaters that communicate with each other, and we have our own private radio that we use to talk and communicate. We have boats leaving from Vancouver, Victoria, Anacortes, Port Townsend, various other places too, so everybody's searching and looking.
So are you using this boat for those tours as well, or a different one?
Yes, this boat.
So let's talk about when these tours take place. If they want to go on the whale watching tour, what time of the day are they looking at that? And if they're looking for these hour-long tours, what time of day is that occurring?
So whale watch trips, Friday, Saturdays, and Sunday mornings, and they are 10 o'clock departures. And the hour trips are 11 o'clock until 6 o'clock, and every hour.
I presume reservations recommended?
Recommended, definitely.
Though you might be able to get in. I mean, if you're just looking for something to do on a spur of the moment, give it a whirl. The office is right by the bridge on the north end of Deception Pass. Mm-hmm. Stop on in. But if you want to make sure you can take part in this adventure, go ahead and go to deceptionpasstours.com. That's deceptionpasstours.com. Make your reservation, and then you've got a seat for sure. Go ahead and bring some binoculars, bring a camera, and get ready for a good time. Brett, I know you're getting ready to take off for another tour, but thanks for taking the time to spend some time with us on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
All right, thank you for having me, and thanks for coming aboard.
Hey, honey, come here. Check out these new loophole binoculars. They're not only great to see birds with and animals with, but check out the stars. Hey, and since there's a full moon tonight, I thought it'd be a perfect time to break them in. Here, take a look.
Wow, I can't believe it. You can actually see the craters on the moon.
Oh, but it gets better than that. See that gray area up there right to the right? That's the Sea of Tranquility. That's where the astronauts landed on the moon and planted the American flag.
This is so cool.
Now, if you look close, you can still see that flag.
Stop telling her stories.
Don't worry, Dad. I saw it. It was right next to Lunar Rover.
Loophole binoculars, optical quality that's out of this world. Find them at a sporting goods store near you or at loophole.com.
Confused by so many national brand hotel reward programs? Blackout dates, expiration dates, different points for different hotel rewards, and gimmicks? At Shiloh Inn Suites Hotels, it's simple. No blackout dates for any rewards stay. If we have a room available, it's yours. Hi, I'm Mark Hemstreet, owner of Shiloh Inns. As a rewards member, you'll receive free room upgrades, a dedicated personal agent to help book your stay, points that don't expire, points that can be used for free nights at any one of our beautiful hotels or donations to your local school or free airline tickets, and much more. And as a special bonus, you'll earn 100 free bonus points just for signing up. From your very first stay, you receive free Wi-Fi, free breakfast at most locations. The kids stay free. We don't charge ridiculous resort or parking fees, and we're dog-friendly. Shiloh Inns, affordable excellence. American-owned and proud of it.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. It's time again for news and reports from the field, brought to you every week by Mardon Resort at Eastern Washington's Potholes Reservoir. 2 upcoming events you need to know about. Number 1, the Mardon Dock Tournament is taking place between Friday the 12th through Sunday the 14th. This is a lot of fun. It is a tournament where you can catch all sorts of different species of fish and win money, and you don't need a boat to participate. If you do have a boat and at least one of your 2-man team or 2-woman team is over 40, well, you might want to fish the Old Farts Bass Tournament. That's taking place on Sunday the 14th. I fish it every year. Always a lot of fun. Find out more about the Dock Tournament and the Old Farts Bass Tournament at mardonresort.com. That's mardonresort.com, where the fish bite, but we don't. We start off our outdoor news by telling you about an August 6th flash flood on the South Fork of the Salmon River that wiped out most of this year's broodstock of Chinook salmon. It wasn't the rain so much as it was the sediment that flowed into holding ponds that killed some 1,200 adult Chinook salmon there, as well as other salmon swimming in the river itself. According to State Fisheries Coordinator Sam Shar, these broodstock losses will significantly impact the number of eggs for the McCall Hatchery Program, the Shoshone-Bannock Egg Box Program, and the Nez Perce Tribe's Johnson Creek Program this year. Fisheries managers are already working on this. Trucks dispatched to the scene were able to save 200 salmon, and according to Idaho Fish and Game, the agency will be working with both the Nez Perce and Shoshone-Bannock tribes to capture adult Chinook salmon on the South Fork downstream from the Fish and Game trapping facility to restore broodstock populations. The tribes have also volunteered to contribute a share of their harvest to the McCall Hatchery Broodstock Program. In Portland, Oregon, area residents are excited to know Cabela's is going to celebrate their official grand opening of its Tualatin store Thursday, September 18th at 10:45 a.m. with a unique ribbon-cutting ceremony involving archery of all things, followed by a weekend-long celebration featuring special celebrity appearances, family events, giveaways, and more. The 100,000 square foot store will be Cabela's 63rd store in North America and almost twice as large as their other Oregon store in Springfield. In addition to lots of outdoor supplies, great taxidermy, and a mountain replica inside, you'll also find an indoor archery range, archery tech room, and a gun library. Find out more about this and other Cabela's stores at cabela's.com. From the Outdoor Press Room, we learn non-resident hunting license sales are down again in Montana. In the 4 years since a ballot initiative raised the price of Montana's non-resident hunting licenses significantly, sales have been lagging, resulting in revenue shortfalls to fish, wildlife, and parks. Before the 2010 increase, a lottery system was used because there were far more applicants than tags available. This year, the total undersold licenses amount to more than $3.3 million in potential fish, wildlife, parks revenue that has been lost. Benchmade Knives out of Oregon City got a nice feather in their cap after their Grizzly Creek folding knife was named their best of the best hunting knife in the September edition of Field and Stream magazine. Slayton White with Field and Stream says, Our staff spent the better part of the past year finding and testing the gear that will make readers' time in the woods more productive and more fun. The best of the best is the highest honor Field and Stream bestows on gear, and the winning products are the best of the year, worth your time, worth your money. You can find out more about Benchmade's Grizzly Creek Folding Life at your local sporting goods retailer, or if you can't find it there, just go to benchmade.com. Turning to field reports, pick up your pole and head to Southeast Oregon for some good late summer fishing. According to the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, bass anglers are having some of the best fishing in years at Dog Lake, where boat and bank access are both excellent. Blue Lake in the Gearhart Wilderness provides a great day hike or pack trip for rainbow trout up to 17 inches long, and fly fishing for monster brown trout using grasshopper or mouse patterns is very good on the Wood River. There are angling opportunities in Idaho as well. The Fish and Game Department stocked 6,000 trout in eastern Idaho's Island Park Reservoir this week, and another 3,500 trout were put into Stanley Lake in central Idaho's Sawtooth National Recreation Area. That's a whole lot of fish, which should equate to some very good September fishing. And in Montana, the Grizzly Hackle Fly Shop reports the Clark Fork below town has been fishing well for rainbow trout as of last week and should get even better with cloud cover helping the bite pick up. Offerings to cast include a size 18 purple haze and a trico like a Tucker's Twiggy or RS2. Tan, pink, or flesh-colored hoppers in the afternoon with a stonefly dropper will keep your rods bent, and a big Luna Negra is a good bet in the morning. You can find out more about fishing in this part of Montana by going to grizzlyhackle.com. And with that, let's head back to Northwest Washington for another fishing report. We're broadcasting from Holiday Sports in Burlington, right off of Highway 20 and I-5. If you've got fishing or hunting needs in the North Sound, this is the stop you've got to make. With us here is manager Kevin John. Kevin, been a while. How you been?
Pretty good, man.
Kevin, let's go ahead and talk about fishing in this area in September. A lot's going on. What are a couple things that anglers ought to think about doing?
About everything up here this time of year. 1st of September really kicks off the start of everything. The Skagit opens back up for salmon, which also allows you to use bait in general, which then gives you sturgeon opportunities and can fish cutthroat trout on the lower river and just a whole lot of other stuff you can do at that point. The Samish River also is already open. Typically, it really gets going after the first rain right around Labor Day. So again, kind of 1st of September is really when we start thinking about that one. And those are the two big ones, obviously, but we also have the Stillaguamish, and the last couple of years down south on the Snohomish has been a pretty good bet as well for coho.
So are we talking about any fall Chinook in the mix, or is this all coho we're talking about on these streams?
The Samish is going to be a Chinook fishery.
So lots of coho fishing to be had up here and a little bit of Chinook as well in these rivers. Let's go out into the Sound itself. How's the salmon fishing in September out there?
Typically, it can be pretty good if we're fishing like Samish Bay. That opened up on the 15th of August. That's kind of cool. That's part of the Bellingham Bay fishery, so it's a 4-fish limit, 2 of which can be Chinook. You can also keep coho out there that can be wild or hatchery versus having any restrictions inside the rivers like we will see. That's one of my favorites. It's really shallow water. You can go out there on a low tide, anchor up in a channel, and jig away with a Point Wilson dart or a crippled herring, and those things go absolutely ballistic when you hook them in 8 feet of water. So that's a lot of fun right there. The stuff out in the islands itself, it really just depends on the year. This has been a weird year. Everybody's thinking stuff is late. Hopefully that will hold true and we'll actually see some real good fishing here in September. On a normal year, typically September slows. By the time we get into October, it's turning into more of a coho fishery, and by late October we actually really end up seeing blackmouth.
Now, this is not a pink year, but I know traditionally during pink years, fishing off of Whidbey Island over by Deception Pass and Fort Casey is a good bet. Are those still options for people casting buzz bombs on a year like this? Is there anything to catch out there?
Oh God, yes. That's really a viable fishery this time of year. Guys kind of get thrown for a loop on a pink season because we do see early coho come, and so they'll start playing around about now and thinking that, hey, there aren't any fish here, it's going to be a bad year. In fact, typically they really don't start coming through in quality numbers until early September. And that is a really good fishery, whether you want to throw a buzz bomb or a rotator. It's single hooks out there. You can run 2 single hooks if you want to. Personally, I like to hang a couple of 1/0 Siwashes on the back end of a number 7 barrel swivel, slide a little green hoochie over that thing and hang that behind my buzz bomb. Kind of gives them another target. Also flutters a little slower that way. If it's anything like it was the last couple of years, it's going to be a real good coho fishery down there.
We've got to go, but before we do, let's go ahead and give people a website for Holiday Sports Sports. They can go ahead and check you out online before they stop off here, right off of Highway 20 next to I-5 in Burlington.
Yeah, that's holidaysportsburlington.com.
That's holidaysportsburlington.com. Stop on by. They've got a great selection of sporting goods, everything you need to be successful fishing in the North Sound this fall. Kevin, always a pleasure. Thanks for being on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Looking to leave the world behind? Then escape to Northeast Oregon's Alpine Country, Wallowa County. With over 560 miles of trails and 60 high mountain lakes, the Eagle Cap Wilderness beckons you to explore. The deep glacial waters of Wallowa Lake call you to fish for record kokanee in the Hells Canyon, North America's deepest river canyon, lures you to experience the wild waters of Snake River. Wake up to the world of Wallowa County. Your morning begins at WallowaCountyChamber.com.
Psst, yeah, you, the guide, outfitter, or outdoors business owner who's listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. Have you ever thought of becoming a sponsor of our show? Contact me, John Cruz, through our website at northwesternoutdoors.com for more information. That's northwesternoutdoors.com, helping you get the word out about your outdoors company.
We're back with one last cast from John Cruz on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
We're going to start off the upcoming events portion of our show with something a little bit different. Now, if you like to hike and maybe you've got a competitive edge, you're going to want to hear more about this. It's the Cleman Mountain Navigation Race. It's taking place near Natchez, Washington, September 28th. With us here, tell us more, is one of the event organizers, Rebecca Jensen. Rebecca, what is this navigation race all about?
Navigation racing is really for a lot of people. While it's called a race, you don't really need to be in a hurry, which is kind of the great thing about this. It's really friendly for people who enjoy taking their time and hiking, but are sort of interested in strategy and challenging themselves. The way a navigation race works is you get a map at the start of the day with checkpoints circled on it, and your task is to find as many of those checkpoints as you can within a time limit. Now, the time limit is generous. We have 4 hours, 8 hours, and even a 24-hour option at Cleman Mountain.
Let me ask you a question about this, Rebecca. This is old school, isn't it? We're talking map and compass. We're talking what a lot of people associate with orienteering. You don't get to use your GPS on your iPhone for this, do you?
No, you don't. Yes, old school map and compass, which can be intimidating for people. I think people hear about compass, they think, oh no, I don't really know how to use that. But really, if you can understand the contours of a map, I'd say that's the most important thing. If you understand how contour lines work and can look at that and relate it to the landscape you're looking at, like, oh, I see a ridge here on my map, there's the ridge there in the landscape. If you can figure that out, you can actually do a lot of navigation racing based on that skill alone. The compass certainly can be very important for the more advanced competitor, but especially if you're participating in a team. I mean, it's very common to participate in teams of 2 to 5, then really everybody puts their heads together and figures out where to go. So you don't need to be whiz with a compass to get around in a navigation race.
Folks, I spent a lot of time lost in the woods as a young second lieutenant in the Army, but I learned to love reading a map and using a compass to get around. And Rebecca's absolutely right. I mean, just you get to the point where you can just basically orient that map, and that's really all you need to get around. And it's a ton of fun. I've done these land navigation courses myself in a military setting as opposed to a recreational setting. But if you want to just get out there and see a lot of ground and go hiking, have fun with friends, and, you know, go ahead and compete in this, you don't have to be a champion. It's just a fun way to spend a day, isn't it, Rebecca?
Absolutely.
We better tell people, again, the details is September 28th. Is there a website where people can find out more and register?
Yes. All the information can be found at navraces.com. And you can also check out, we have a first-time section there, which lays out sort of all the little details of navigation racing that people may not be familiar with. You know, what is it that you're looking for? It's actually a bright orange flag. This is not like geocaching where, you know, the thing you're looking for is hidden underneath a rock. We're going to put out that flag where you can see it. Things like that and how the points work and all that.
This sounds like a really fun event. It's the Cleman Mountain Navigation Race. You don't necessarily have to race to enjoy this. It's taking place September 28th near Natchez, Washington. The website, again, is navraces.com, navraces.com. And by the way, folks, a map and a compass always works. those iPhones run out of juice. So go ahead and learn this skill and have fun at the same time. It's navraces.com for the Cleman Mountain Navigation Race. Rebecca, thanks for telling us all about this on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
All right, thank you very much, John.
In other upcoming events, mourning dove season opens up September 1st across the bulk of the Northwest, and so does grouse hunting, except for Idaho, where hunters are already hunting for them this weekend. I plan on being out in a wheat field gunning for dove on the 1st, and if you haven't done this before, you ought to give it a try. It's a ton of fun. One word of advice, though, bring lots of shells. Those birds can be tough to hit. That's all for this week. If you get a chance, go to our website at northwesternoutdoors.com. You'll find links to find out more about our guests, previews of the upcoming show, and audio from last week's show in case you missed part of it. We also have a Facebook page. Like us, follow us at Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're always posting information there that doesn't necessarily make it onto the show because there's only so much you can cram into an hour. We hope you have enjoyed our trip to wonderful Whidbey Island in Northwest Washington and to Fort Casey State Park. You can find out more about this special place and others by going to parks.wa.gov. That's parks.wa.gov for the Washington State Parks website. Until next time, take care, God bless, enjoy your Labor Day weekend, and make it a point to spend some time outdoors.